Okay, Erev Tov everyone. Isru Chag Sameach. So, just a couple of words about Tehillim because people keep asking and people are bound to continue asking. We've explained a number of times, but people will still ask. So, I actually took a survey last night on one of the rabbinic forums I'm on just to see what different shuls are doing. So there are some shuls I know that have stopped saying Tehillim. There are probably more shuls that are continuing to say Tehillim. Baruch Hashem, we've stopped saying the mincha-maariv for the chatufim. It's for the living hostages to come back because Baruch Hashem they've all come back. We're still waiting for all the bodies to come for a Kever Israel, but it's not over. We know that we don't know exactly which way this is going to go. Our soldiers are still out there. They're still fighting. There still is a danger, and therefore at the moment we're going to continue to say Tehillim, and we're monitoring the situation. And we'll see how it goes. And at some point, I assume we'll be able to stop. I mean, we could say Tehillim forever, but the point is, this is, it's an additional tefillah that we're saying because of the Eitz Hara that we've been in and that we're experiencing, and that still exists to a certain extent. So, of course, we give thanks for the good that has come, but it's still appropriate, I think, to say at the moment. And following the Tehillim, we've been saying the Mishaberach L'Chayelei Tzahal. Somebody made a suggestion, which I think is a very good suggestion, which is that on Mondays and Thursdays, when we say Mishaberach at the end of Torah reading, we say Mishaberach L'Chayelei Tzahal, and just like we do on Shabbos, we can continue saying that permanently. There's no reason not to say that. So that's what we'll do, and for the moment we'll continue to say Tehillim, and hopefully, the time will come soon enough that it won't be relevant, but for now it still is. Okay, so say a few words about, we have a change in our tefillah. We know yesterday we said Tefillat Geshem, and we're in a bit of a strange period at the moment where we say Mashiv haRuach Geshem in the second bracha of Shemona Esrei, but when we get to the bracha of Barech Aleinu, we still don't ask for rain yet. We still say V'tein bracha. We're not yet going to say V'tein Tanamatar. And when we do that, we know as well there is a difference between Israel and Chutz La'aretz, and it's a question that comes up. I won't talk about it now because it's not yet relevant. But somebody who between Zayin Cheshvan is the time we start saying V'tein Tanamatar in Eretz Yisrael, and Chutz La'aretz it's only a little bit later. So if one travels back and forth between during that period, people want to know, should they say V'tein Bracha, should they say V'tein Tanamatar? In either event, right now we say V'tein Bracha wherever we are. But we say Mashiv haRuach Min HaGeshem. So this is based on the first Mishnah in Masechet Ta'anit. The Mishnah says, Ma'ei matai mazkirin gvurot kshamim. Right, so from when do we start mentioning gvurot kshamim? The second bracha of Shemona Esrei is the bracha of gvurot, of strength, corresponding, the set number 2, where it corresponds to Yitzchak Avinu, which is a midah of gvura. Right, the first one corresponds to Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Okay. So the Mishnah says, Ma'ei matai mazkirin gvurot kshamim. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Miyom Tov al Rishon Shel Chag. Okay, we don't paskin like Rabbi Eliezer. That's the case over here. We don't paskin like him, but we've discussed this on Chag a little bit. He says already from the first day of Sukkot, from the first Yom Tov, you start mentioning Geshem. So Rabbi Yeshua Omer, Miyom Tov Achron Shel Chag. Rabbi Yeshua says no, you do it on Shmini Atzeret. It's our minhag. So Amar lo Rabbi Yeshua, Ho'il ve'en hagshamim ela siman klala b'chag lama maskir. Why? Really, there's logic to say that already from the beginning of Sukkot you should start saying Geshem. But Rav Yeshua says, how can you ask for Geshem on the first day of Sukkot when we know that it's a siman klala? It's a sign of curse. We don't want there to be rain on Sukkot. If there's rain on Sukkot, it means that we can't go into our Sukkah. Right? My daughter kept saying last year there was one night that it rained in the Sukkah and we had to sleep inside. This year already Erev Sukkot, my daughter kept telling me, but this year we're sleeping in the Sukkah every night, even if it rains, because we won't notice, we can fall asleep, we don't have to go inside. Baruch Hashem, it didn't rain, we were able to be in the Sukkah every night. But we don't want it to rain on Chag, and we know that is a siman klala. So how can you mention it? So lama maskir. So Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer says, he answers back to Rabbi Yeshua, right? Afani lo amarti l'shol. I didn't ask for rain. Who is saying that? But Ela laskir, I just said to mention, we're saying Mashiv haRuach u'morid Geshem be'onato. Meaning, there is a difference between mentioning what we call gvurot kshamim, meaning giving praise, right? The first 3 brachot of Shemona Esrei in any event are not brachot of bakasha, so not brachot of requests, these are brachot of praise. And therefore we're praising, as we're talking, this is the time, this is in general the rainy season, but we don't yet actually want it to rain. So we can say, says Rabbi Eliezer, already the first day of Sukkot, you could therefore say, Mashiv haRuach Min HaGeshem, and then when you ask for it, you're going to ask for it later. So Rabbi Yeshua answers back, Amar lo im ken le'olam yeh maskir. If you're saying, right? That you can say it even though you don't want it to rain, so why don't you just say it all the time? Okay, so there's a bit of a back and forth here in this Mishnah. We understand there's a tension between these two different brachot, exactly what it is. We're asking for rain, we're not asking for rain, we're praising for rain. So the general, we understand, again, our minhag is like Rabbi Yoshua, we said Geshem yesterday, but we still don't have the Bakashat Kshamim until Zayin Cheshvan, which we'll get to in a moment why that is. But we are in the general season where we want it to rain, even though there is a reason we don't quite want the rain yet. So the reason we don't want the rain yet is for the following reason. Read to you here from the Pinina Elachai. It says, Tchilat bakasha lageshem dachu b'15 yom. We wait 15 days from the time that we start saying Gvurot Kshamim until the time that we start asking for the rain. Why for these 15 days? We wait until we get to the 7th day of Cheshvan. וזאת כדי שהאחרון עולה הרגל שבא מן על פרת יספיק לחזור לביתו ולא שירד עליו גשם בדרכו. We're waiting for the stragglers that are coming back from the Aliyah LaRegel. Okay, so the last people, it's going to take about 15 days. Right? Think about Aliyah LaRegel. Once upon a time, this was a big thing. You have to go and you have to travel and come to Eretz Yisrael, go all the way back to Bavel, or wherever it is. So it would take another 2 weeks for everybody to get back. And if we're going to start davening for rain, asking for rain in the meantime, then they're going to get wet on the way back. We want it to be comfortable. We don't want people to get rain on. We spoke on Yom Kippur. We spoke about this tefillah of the Kohen Gadol, right? The Kohen Gadol prays a tefillah in the Kodesh Kodashim on Yom Kippur, no less. And one of the things he asks for, he says, right, Shelo yikansu lefanecha tefillah tovrei drachim, that the those that are on the road, you should not accept their tefillot. It's a very, very strange prayer. We spoke about it in the downstairs minyan on Yom Kippur. Spoke about it last year in the upstairs minyan on Yom Kippur. You might remember. But why is it that of all things is what the Kohen Gadol has to pray for? But essentially he's saying people that are out on the road, on the journey, they're praying that there shouldn't be rain. But if the world needs rain, we want there to be. So we wait until everybody's gone back so they won't get wet. Now, you can ask the question, okay, that was during the time of Aliyah LaRegel. Right now, it's irrelevant. So why don't we just start saying what Shmini Atzeret already? So, Rabbi writes like this. He says, Af lachar chuban lo nitpatel haminhag. Right? We don't cancel, we don't change the minhag. We know that we are very, very particular about not changing minhagim, especially those that are going back all the way to the Sanhedrin. מפני שכל מנהג שמזכיר את הימים הגדולים בין בית המקדש עמד המכונו, חביב עלינו מאוד ואיננו רוצים לבטלו. He suggests maybe there's an element here of זכר למקדש. Many things that we do. זכר. What? It could.
So we do not want to then change again.
But nobody's come. We haven't had the Aliyah LaRegel. Okay, that's what you're saying. In any event, but that's so. Either way, it's the same idea. I mean, we find this idea. We find this idea actually. It's brought in the Rosh in a number of places in Yom Pesach as well. That this idea that the Beit HaMikdash could be built, and then people will say, "Oh, last year we did it differently. We don't want it to be." But it's all part and parcel of the same idea. This is of Zeichel HaMikdash. Now. So he says as well, hang on a second. You say, okay, but if the Beit HaMikdash gets rebuilt today, tomorrow, today, whenever it is, from Herav Yameinu, okay, it's not going to take 2 weeks for everybody to get back. They're not going to go on foot and on donkey anymore. They're going to go by planes and by trains and bus and whatever. So he says, רק לאחר שיבנה בית המקדש במהרה בימינו תוכל הסנהדרין להחליט אם לשנות את זמן תחילת שאלת הגשמים. We'll have a shayla. The Sanhedrin will get together. They'll say, okay, then we'll say maybe the timing, it's no longer relevant. Already on Shmini Atzeret, we can say Tfilat HaGeshem, and we can say V'tein Tel HaMatar. But we're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait for the Sanhedrin to decide that based on today's transport and means of transport. It makes sense that it would change, but it's not going to change until then. Okay, so we continue to say, and we carry on now saying Mashiv haRuach haGeshem until Pesach. So now the question is, what happens if somebody makes a mistake? Of course, it would never happen to anybody here. But sometimes you're saying you're in your tefillah. We've been saying Morid Atal. We're used to it. We're davening on autopilot and auto whatever. And a person realizes they're halfway through Shmoneh Esrei and they wait a minute. It was meant to say, or even not halfway through, but you're davening a little bit faster than the Chazal, and suddenly you hear Mashiv haRuach haGeshem, and you say, oh no, I didn't say Mashiv haRuach, I said Morid Atal. Or even worse than that, you say, I don't remember what I said. I wasn't thinking about it. What do I do? So here we have an advantage. Here we have an advantage when we switch from Morid Hatal to Mashiv haRuach, which we don't have in the other direction. Just say it like this: if you were meant to, when we stop saying Mashiv haRuach or Morid HaGeshem, and then one said it. So let's say on Pesach, or a week after Pesach, one continues to say Mashiv haRuach when they weren't meant to. So that's a time when we don't want rain, when it's damaging to the world, and therefore by saying it, there is a kilkul. You have caused something negative in your tefillah, and one would have to go back and one would have to repeat. Here, okay, if one did not mention, again, we're not asking for rain. When we get to V'tein talu matali bracha, that will be a different story. But if one forgot to say Mashiv haRuach, so if you say Morid Hatal, which is also related to water, and is also a praise that's related to water, therefore there is no need to repeat, and therefore that is valid b'di'evid. So essentially, the way that we daven, if one gets to, one forgot the bracha, one forgot what one said, or right now, one doesn't have to do anything. There wouldn't be a situation where one has to repeat. If you're davening the way Nusach Ashkenaz in Chutz La'aretz, where you don't say Morid Hatal, you just say nothing, okay, then you have a problem. Then you've not mentioned it, and then you would have to go back and you would have to repeat. I had a few people in the Kehillah in London who, even though they daven Nusach Ashkenaz, and then they insisted, they always said Morid Hatal. There wasn't actually we had a bit of an argument about it once, because that was not the minhag of the Kehillah. The Nusach was not to say it, and there was a couple of people who, whenever they were the Chazan in the community, they always said Morid Hatal. I said, that's not the minhag. I said, no, I'm going to say it anyway. Okay, people do what they want. But the advantage of that is that in case you forget or you make a mistake, you wouldn't have to go back. What if? So let's say somebody's in Chutz La'aretz and somebody's davening Nusach Ashkenaz and they did not say Morid Hatal. So therefore, if they know they didn't say Mashiv haRuach or Morid HaGeshem, then they would have to repeat because they didn't say. What if a person doesn't know what they said? They can't remember. So here we go back to the principle we've mentioned many times, that we go by chazaka, essentially we go by habit. We say whatever you've been doing for the last 30 days, we assume that is what you did. So if you can't remember whether you said Mashiv haRuach or not, so if it's within 30 days still since Shmini Atzeret, we assume that you didn't say it. And if it's past 30 days, we assume that you did say it. So now,
What happens if you don't remember what you did the last 30 days?
that's most people. So we say that's la beva satan, and then everything's okay. No, so we go by what the general practice has been for the last 30 days. The advice that is given and is brought down the Mishnah, the Ramam, Mishnah Berurah, and others, is that when we make the change, if we are going to say that nusach of the tefillah 90 times in a row, so then we assume that you've said it 30 days, you say it 3 times. Okay, there's a little bit of a discussion about whether that actually works or not, because is the point that you've said it 90 times, or is the point that you've said it for 30 days in a row? Meaning, how do we change what happens? In any event, as I said, all of this is academic right now, because we didn't say Mashiv haRuach. We can't remember if we said Mashiv haRuach. You should still try and say it. You should say the right thing. But b'di'evid, so long as you've said Morid Hatal, then that is okay. Once we get to Zayin Cheshvan, and we have to say V'tein talu matali bracha instead of V'tein bracha, then it's a little bit more complicated. There, if one forgot to say, if one omitted the bakasha, the request for rain, so one would have to go back and repeat it. The advantage is that we still have another place where we can add it in, which is in Shema Koleinu. So therefore, if one did not say, we're fast forwarding 2 weeks now, and one is meant to say V'tein talu matali and did not say it, and one remembers, and it's before Shema Koleinu, so one can just add in those words, V'tein talu matali bracha, in the bracha of Shema Koleinu. Or if one doesn't remember, right, so often happens, you're within that 30-day period, and suddenly you don't remember what you said. So within the bracha of Shema Koleinu, you can add in those words, and that is okay. But just to summarize now, because I've said a lot of things, and everybody's going to be confused. So that nobody should be confused. Right now, again, the advantage is we have these boards in the shul. We have one downstairs, we have one upstairs. So if you can't remember what to say, just check the board, and that will tell you. So right now we are saying Mashiv haRuach or Morid HaGeshem, and not Morid Hatal. Nonetheless, if one said the wrong thing, one can't remember, one does not have to repeat. When we get later on, we're still saying V'tein bracha. In another 2 weeks, we'll start saying V'tein talu matali, and then there'll be the relevant halachot if one forgot or one isn't sure, etc.